processing? Well, as you have discovered this morning, you must respect fundamental rights and principles. And for that, you have to manage the person privacy risks generated by your data processing. You must determine the appropriate and organizational control to implement for that. So I'm going to present you a multilingual user-friendly software. We can help you to check and document your compliance approach and the controls you have selected to enforce the person privacy. The French Personal Data Authority, the CNIL, designed it. You can use this tool as a kind of a super checklist, because by running it, it will remind you the key point that you must consider. But you must also use it to enforce compliance. This tool is interactive. You can involve several types of people to analyze your processing. It can be used by contributors such as researchers, but also IT specialists, someone from your legal or compliance department, or your data privacy officer, and they will help you to review the processing and provide complementary information. Compliance is a continuous improvement process, and therefore several iterations to achieve an acceptable privacy protection system may be required, and this tool organized this. Privacy impact assessment are in some cases legally compulsory. In E-shape case, it should not be the case. So a few functionalities in these tools are therefore not of interest because they are necessary only in case of compulsory PIA cases. So for matter of clarity in this presentation, I will leave these few functionalities aside. So I'm now going to share my screen and we're going to run this tool. Évidemment, ça marche pas. Well, okay. You have there the dashboard, and you can. Tu vois mon écran? Well. Yes. Okay. You have now the dashboard, and you can, on the bottom right, choose your language. And then we can start an assessment. To create an assessment, you have to click on the plus button, name the assessment, and edit it. On the left part of your screen, you can browse the assessment by using this menu. The assessment is divided into 4 steps. The first one explains the reason of the data processing and how it is implemented, in clear what are we talking about. The second part is to study how fundamental principle will impact on the processing. The third part is a risk evaluation and measure of the internal controls. The planned security measure will be described and the possible impact on person will be evaluated. And the last one is a global overview of the whole process, a validation and action plan. The middle fields here are free text zone. You can type, you can type whatever you want. To help you to fill this field, you have on the right part of the screen a knowledge base for each field. You will find the definition and explanation to help you to fill in these fields. I have pre-filled for this presentation a few of these fields. And we're going to start with an example, which is a case which can be a very common situation encountered by eShape partner during the project. So I am there, a showcase leader, and I'm organizing a dissemination workshop for the purpose of the eShape sprint. And in this current COVID situation, the workshop will be organized online with support of a commercial meeting software. Well, for example, Zoom. And during these sessions, users with external to eShape consortium will contribute to consolidating a list of required actions to promote the pilot applications. The participants are contacted by email and should confirm their attendance by reply in giving their professional title, field of work, geographic location. This specific information is important for the analysis of the end results. The workshop is recording, and as a showcase leader, I'm planning to post this recording on the password-protected platform Confluence. And I'm wondering if an extract of this recording could be uploaded to eShape website. So now that I have given the context of the processing, I have to define the processing. In this case, it will be holding an online workshop, building work file, and voice and image recording. And the processing stakes are implementation and promotion of this scientific research project in keeping with the legal framework and the personal data security. We have then to define there the responsibility linked to the processing. You will find on the right part of the screen new definition to help you. In this case, controllers will be the showcase leader and Noah, which is the eShape partner who runs the eShape website. The processor will be, your mailbox operator, the data host, and the provider of Confluence. The last field is never applicable in case of eShape. Well, at the end of this page, you're not sure that you have correctly answered that. You can ask for a review, clicking there, to someone of your legal or compliance department or to your DPO. And this person can say, well, you have to improve the page, or can declare that all these explanations are acceptable. Then we have to describe what is the data processed. Well, the list of the data in our example is a name, email, phone number, function, and field of work. Localization, and in this case, it's going to be a personal data. given the kind of other data collected and the small number of participants in this workshop, this localization data helps to identify the participants. And we have image and voice, which is highly personal data. The recipients of the data are the showcase leader, other eShapes partners, potentially EC reviewer if the personal data are mentioned in the deliverables, and public if some extracts are published on the eShape website. We must then describe the life cycle of data that you can see there, and never forget that in a life cycle there is the storage of your data. We have them to list the data supporting assets, and this question is important for security matters. So one more time, we must be down to earth and list what are these assets. Well, your computer, browser, Wi-Fi network, internet, servers. You can always ask for a review if you want. We are now starting the second part, and we are going to study how the processing is tested with regards to the fundamental principles. We must first define what are the processing purpose. So we have the description of the processing, holding an online workshop, building work files and voice and image recording. The processing purposes are the implementation of a scientific research project, internal reporting, as we're going to load up in Confluence the recording, and public communication. Remember the 8 golden rules that I have presented this morning, and we are going to start with checking all this. So the first one is to find what is the legal basis making the processing lawful. And you will find there a reminder of the justification of lawfulness. In our case, the first legal basis can be your legitimate interest for all the professionals' contact details of the participants. If we checked if the 3 conditions are met, we can see that the processing is necessary for the identify purpose and without undermining participant rights. We are using professional data in a professional context. But for the other data, localization, voice and images, this third condition, the respect of the participant rights, is not fulfilled, and we have to get a prior consent of the participants. We must then see if we can minimize the data. Well, professional details are necessary for contacting people, for the follow-up of workshop, for analysis useful to the project. Sounds and image are necessary for internal reporting and for communication actions. Well, what about localization data? we can think a little bit about that. Is this data really necessary? And after due consideration, this data is evaluated as necessary for the good quality of the project. Always make clear that you have identified a point, there, the case of the localization data. What is your solution and why? The idea is to keep track of your analysis to demonstrate your effort to seek compliance. We must then answer the question about accuracy of the data and are the data kept up to date? And the question about the storage duration of the data. This duration can be determinable. That means that we can say that the data are stored for the duration of each project and the duration of a possible European Commission audit. We have now to study how the participant can exercise his or her rights. First of all, we must inform the participant. Information is always compulsory, even if you are not collecting data. So in our case, well, an information sheet is sent as an attachment to the email inviting each participant. In the case of the necessity of the consent of a data subject, how is it obtained? Well, we mentioned this recording in the invitation email. We must then explain how the person can exercise their right of access, of rectification, erasure, and objection to the processing. Well, in this example, they can do that by sending an email to the showcase leader, and this showcase leader will be in touch with his with the DPO to process the request. Are the obligations of the processors clearly identified and governed by contract? The processor in our case are mailbox operator, provider of Confluence, and data host. Well, in all these cases, an agreement or license is signed with each of them and includes provision relating to personal data. Is there any data transferred outside the European Union? And in that case, are the data adequately protected? Well, this point will depend on the contract of license signed with the processor. For example, if you have a remote hosting, you have to check in which country it is, and if it is in the United States, you have to check the license that you signed. If I ask a review there, I'm going to show how the interactive process works effectively. The reviewer, well, will say that this information obligation is acceptable. But here, remember that you need explicit positive consent. So the process you're processing there is improvable. And this is the comment entered by the reviewer. And what corrective or action plan can we have? Well, we have to get an acceptation by reply email. This is an example of what corrective action you can implement. All these sections there are acceptable. And then we can go on the third part, which will be about security. In this part, the first step that we have to do is to list all the planned or existing security measure that we are going to apply to the processing. You have on the right side of the screen, a very long list of various security measures. And you can add it in clicking directly clicking on them. For example, if I choose for example, managing workstation, I have automatically here the field appearing there. And we can choose for this explanation network security as well, physical access control, and managing privacy risks. We can also add something which is not in the list. And now that we have this list established, we're going to check if all these controls that we have there will be useful to mitigate three types of risk. The third risk is illegitimate access to data. The second one, unwanted modification of data. The last one, data disappearance. For the first one, you have to think what possible main impact on the person could be if illegitimate access to data were to occur. Well, I have thought of three. You can, in that case, receive targeted advertising, spam, usurpation. An usurpation of your professional identity can be possible, and we can also enter reputation damage. We must then evaluate what are the main threats that could lead to this risk. Well, it can be unintentional disclosure of information, data theft, unauthorized access to data. What would be the risk source of this threat? Well, a faulty IT system, faulty IT maintenance organization, hacker, or simply a negligent, deceiving, or malicious employee. Which of the identified plan control contribute to addressing the risk? If we click here, you have an automatic recall of all the control and measure that we have preset before that. So I'm going to choose only one control. And then we have to estimate the risk level in terms of severity and likelihood. Severity answers the question, what is the impact for the person? And likelihood refers to the question, is really possible to access the data illegitimately? Well, the risk evaluation, you can use the gauge there to measure your risk. And in that case, it would be important. Your professional reputation is important. And as we have very few planned control, the likelihood of the risk is important. If we go a bit further in this tool, we can have the risk mapping. And you will see there that the risk that we have evaluated is in the red zone because we are in the case of an important risk likelihood and an important risk seriousness. And we want to improve that. So you can have this section reviewed. And we want to improve the thing. So we want to add more controls. And the corrective action that we can choose there is, for example, management of workstation and physical access control. So you can choose whatever you want. This is an example. And then, taking into account this action plan, we have to re-evaluate the risk. So the seriousness is still important, but the likelihood can be reduced now to limited. If we go to the risk mapping, there, you have the red dot, which shows the plan or existing measure, and the blue dot is where is now the risk with the corrective measure implemented. So we have there a documentation of our effort to seek compliance. We could go to this process for the two other risks, unwanted modification of data and data disappearance, but I'm not going to show you as it is exactly the same thing. We have there a risk overview, global overview, which means that on one single screen, you have sum up all that we have right there. So the potential impact, the threat, sources, measure that we want that are existing. If we were to choose in a normal life, we would fill these two categories there. We would have the same thing there for the unwanted modification of data and data disappearance. So at the end of the process, you have there a mapping of the risks. you will have an action plan. Each time you ask for review, the choice of the reviewer will appear there in color. Green is acceptable measure, and blue the improvable measure. And you will find on the bottom part what are the plain or what are the actions that you have to implement to have a compliant processing. So this action plan section provides an overview of the legal and technical points that are considered there improvable or acceptable. So to sum up, you can use this tool as a self-assessment. If you involved a reviewer, you can validate there with them how to achieve a compliant processing. This tool gives you a methodology to achieve compliancy. It gives you a comprehensive and structured action plan, and it documents the whole process, and that can be really useful in case of control or audit. So now I have to go back to the session. Comment je fais pour revenir? Ok. Et Mathieu? Les questions, comment je fais pour y revenir? And I will see if I have any question.
I think all the participants can open their micro and ask for direct question to you, Anne-Laure.
Okay, fine.
So, Emmanuel Pajot speaking.
Yes.
So thank you for this presentation on this tool I was not aware of. So it's really interesting and may really help us to structure our process in a better way. So it's really, really useful. Really need to try it and to. Do you have, for example, some examples of content we could define, or because sometimes I have the feeling it's really difficult for people to understand how they will add the content, or what are the limitations, the possibility to identify the solutions, and so on. For big companies which have legal support and so on, it could be maybe easier to have some feedback, but for small entities, I have the feeling it's really difficult.
First of all, you have this right part of the tools with some definition, and then I omit to give you the website pages where you can upload these tools, which is on the English version of the CNIL website. And on this web page, you will find also guides with methodology, knowledge bases, and a template for a connected object. And that can illustrate exactly how you can use this tool.
Okay, thank you.
Well, is there any other question? Well, I hope you're all convinced that you have there quite a practical support to help you whenever you have identified that you have a personal data processing.
Anne-Laure, it's Anne Demoisy over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear me? So are you ready to help new groups who would like to do the exercise of the workshop and using the tool, like you already did with some of them last month? So like make a next.
Last month, we tried this tool and we used this tool with some partners, e-shape partners, because there were non-EU country partners. And so GDPR are not their familiar national framework, legal framework. And we can, of course, assist and support any partner who would like to use this tool for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important to help them for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, to add on this, the session is recorded. This means that we can maybe use it as a webinar also for using the tool.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can answer to these questions in one way or another if the person have a series of questions.
Okay. Well, I'll do that.
Thank you, Anne-Laure.
So I'll show you the address for the CNIL website pages now. So if you want to have more information or upload this software, you have to go there. And I'll put there in the chat.
And maybe another question about the presentation you made this morning. You say that you have different template part of the deliverable 7.1. Are these templates available on Confluence? Because I went through Confluence and didn't find them.
Okay, I have to say that these deliverables must be finalized by the end of the month, so it will be finalized next week, and they are on they are in the deliverables already. But if you want to, you can send a message, and I can send you these templates by mails or something like that.
Great, thank you.
Mathieu Ravoul speaking. Just would like to say that we will copy and paste the template on dedicated Word documents and put them under Confluence. Then they will be available on Confluence too. Only the templates. It will ease the use of the templates and to process with your personal data and deal with your application.
Sure.
there any other question for Anna?
Okay, so I thank you all for attending this presentation. And if you have some afterthought and some other question, you can always write to ask them.
Thank you, Anne-Laure. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.